Shalom, Yashala, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High, Yahweh. I do so in the name of His only begotten Son, Yahweh Shai. Double honors to the elder apostles of Yasharallah. Kahaloyim, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Harakah, Quadash, for blessing our elders with the spirit of truth, so that we may know. Shout out to the Akim and the Akwaf that's keeping the faith and the works. Y'all keep at it. It's your brother Abaya coming at you with more precepts. It's the book of Isaiah, chapter 62 and verse 6. It says, I have set watchmen upon thy walls, O Jerusalem, which shall never hold their peace day nor night. Ye that make mention of Yahweh, keep not silence, and give him no rest, till he establish and till he make Jerusalem a praise in the earth. And that's what's been going on, right? Since as far as I can remember me seeing the truth on the internet. You can find new videos all the time. And all of it is bringing out, who we are, exposing the devil. But the true men of the Lord are occupied in prophecy, right? Because Scripture told us to watch and pray. So we're supposed to be watching for the prophecies, not to speak on, who you are being wrong or being a wrong topic to speak on. Not saying that at all. But the majority of your time are supposed to be on prophecies, right? Understanding who you are is simple. Simple level understanding in the scriptures. That's why it's all around the world. So, with that being said, let's get into a prophecy right quick. And as you can see by the screenshot, that's a rocket. And it says, North Korea says it test fired new hypersonic missile. These nations are gearing up. They loading up their weaponry. They loading up their arsenal with nuclear weapons and nuclear vehicles. Right? They are gearing up for the war. And it's going to happen. Because Yahweh said it's going to happen. Right? It's a storm coming, man. All right, so let me see, bring out one more script. Then I'm going to let this video play. This is the book of Ezekiel, chapter 38 and verse 9. Speaking about Gog and Magog, which is speaking about Russia, right? It says, thou shalt ascend, in Ezekiel chapter 38 and verse 9, thou shalt ascend and come like a storm. Thou shalt be like a cloud to cover the land. Thou and all thy bands and many people with thee. Thus saith Yahweh power, it shall also come to pass that at the same time shall things come into thy mind, and thou shalt think an evil thought. All right? That thought that this individual is thinking of is the destruction of the world, destruction of this earth. All right? Via what you seeing on the screen. All right? That's why Babylon go get tore out the frame, man. Because of these missiles. And because of the mindset that the Most High has in the wicked. Right? Further up in the same chapter in But verse 4 it says, I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws. That's the Most High putting them back into a certain mindset. All right? And this video going to speak on that mindset. So, you know what? Without further ado, I'm going to let it play.
I do have quite a few headlines I'd like to share with you, and I'd like to start with North Korea. It has been reported that apparently North Korea has tested a new hypersonic missile, which was successfully tested just yesterday. And apparently, it could carry a nuclear warhead. The official Korean Central News Agency said that the missile was an important addition to the country's strategic weaponry, implying that the system is being developed to deliver nuclear weapons. It goes on further to report that Kim Jong-un continues to expand his military capabilities while pressuring Washington and South Korea over long-stalled negotiations over its nuclear weapons. But this latest launch, which came after 2 rounds of missile tests just this month, was shortly before North Korea's UN envoy accused the United States of hostility and demanded that the Biden administration permanently end joint military exercises with its rival South Korea and the deployment of strategic assets in the region. The North has also offered to improve relations with the South if certain conditions are met, apparently returning to its pattern of mixing weapons demonstrations with peace overtures to rest outside concessions. Now, the North's announcement came a day after the South Korean and Japanese military said that they detected North Korea firing another ballistic missile into the sea. The U.S. Indo-Pacific Command said that the launch didn't pose any immediate threat, but highlighted the destabilizing impact of North Korea's illicit weapons program. So basically, that's 2 missile tests, only 24 hours apart. So North Korea is definitely making a statement. But on the other hand, so is the United States. It is also being reported U.S. has tested an air-breathing hypersonic weapon capable of speeds faster than 5 times the speed of sound, marking the first successful test of the class of weapon since 2013. The test took place as the United States and its global rivals quicken their pace to build hypersonic weapons, the next generation of arms that rob adversaries of reaction time and traditional defeat mechanisms. In July, Russia said it had successfully tested its Zircon hypersonic cruise missile, a weapon that President Putin has touted as part of his new generation of missile systems without equal in the world. But the free flight test of the hypersonic air-breathing weapon concept occurred last week. According to Defense Advanced Research Projects, the HAWC program manager stated that this brings us one step closer to transitioning the HAWC to a program of record that occurs next-generation capability to the U.S. military. We are readying our next vehicles and working toward additional flight tests later in the year. In the meantime, Russian fighter jets have scrambled and intercepted an American B-52 bomber as it approached the Russian border over the Pacific Ocean. Citing the official source, the RAA News Agency claims that Russian radars identified the hostile aircraft approaching Russian airspace over the eastern part of the country. 3 advanced Sukhoi 35S fighter aircraft were immediately scrambled from Russia's eastern military district to intercept the incoming threat. The fighter jets escorted the plane away from Russian airspace, seeing the bomber perform a U-turn and leave the area. Russia and the U.S. are historically wary of each other, following tense standoffs seen during the Cold War, and Moscow has become increasingly...
See, that's them hooks getting put back into their jaws because they're going back into that mindset of war. And that war was nuclear. That's why they called it a cold one. Because when it go hot, it's a wrap. Right? Talking about nuclear winter out this thing. Right?
aware of NATO expansion to the east and taken measures to respond to the buildup of NATO forces on its border in Eastern Europe. Senior Russian officials have warned that regional states of potential military consequences for hosting U.S. missile defense systems and have not ruled out a preemptive strike on such batteries. Now, ties between the West and Russia have been further strained following the announcement of the Australian-UK-US deal, which will see a greater presence in the Indo-Pacific region. Both China and Russia have expressed their strong condemnation of the pact, with both nations replying in kind with shows of military strength in recent days. Russia's President Putin said of the deal that we do not want to burn bridges, but if someone sees our good intentions as indifferences or weakness, they should remember this. Russia's response will be quick and it will be tough. He went on to add that everyone who is coming up with provocations that are a threat to our interests will regret that, the way that they haven't regretted something for a while. Now, in addition to all of that, the Kremlin has warned on Monday that any expansion of NATO military infrastructure in Ukraine would cross one of President Putin's red lines. And Belarus also said that it agreed to take action with Moscow to counter the growing NATO activity. The close ally of Moscow accused the United States of setting up training centers in Ukraine, which he said amounted to military bases. And he said that he had discussed the issue with Putin. He also stated that they had both agreed to take some kind of measures in response. Ukraine began joint military exercises with the U.S. and other NATO member troops last week, while Russia and Belarus held large-scale drills that alarmed the West. Ukraine, which is not a NATO member, has long sought closer ties with the West and its militaries. Russia staunchly opposes the idea of NATO membership for Ukraine, and it alarmed Ukraine and the West earlier this year by the building up of military forces near Ukraine's border. It goes on finally to report that the Ukrainian foreign minister has rejected the notion of a Russian red line outside of Russia's own borders, and said that Ukraine had its own security to think about. Putin's red lines are limited to Russia's borders. On our side of the Ukrainian-Russian border, we can figure out ourselves what to do in the interests of the Ukrainian people, as well as Ukraine and Europe's security. So certainly some very high tensions between Russia, Ukraine, and NATO. And speaking of tensions, it is also being reported tensions between the UK and China have worsened after a British ship sailed through the Taiwan Strait for the first time in a decade. And China blasted the Royal Navy for harboring evil intentions regarding the transit. Now, of course, the ship would...
See them evil intentions, right? Can't make this up, man. Can't make it up. All right, so, man, these folks gearing up for the end of this place, because the Most High has put that spirit into these people to do so. The same way he put his spirit in his prophets to prophesy this before it happened. Like his word says. Right? I believe it's Amos 3. The Most High tells the prophets tell the world, then it happens. Alright? Let us finish out though.
Shadowed by 2 Chinese vessels on its journey to Vietnam. A Ministry of Defense spokesman also said that the HMS Richmond is navigating the Taiwan Strait in accordance with international law to the next destination. Wherever the Royal Navy operates, they do so in full compliance with international laws and norms and exercise their rights to freedom of navigation and overflight provided by the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea. The HMS Richmond is no exception. But according to a spokesman for the People's Liberation Army, the British side has taken the trouble to gain a sense of existence. This kind of behavior harbors evil intentions and damages peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait. The troops of the command are always on high alert to resolutely counter all threats and provocations. In the meantime, NTD is reporting that apparently Taiwan's defense minister is requesting long-range accurate weapons in order to properly defend itself against China. Taiwan this month proposed an extra defense spending of almost $9 billion over the next 5 years, including on new missiles. Speaking in Parliament, the defense minister stated that the development of equipment must be long-range, precise, and mobile, so that the enemy can sense that we are prepared as soon as they dispatch their troops. In a written report to Parliament to accompany the defense minister's appearance, the ministry said that both medium and long-range missiles were being used in intercept drills at a key test facility in Taiwan's southeastern coast. He declined to give details to reporters of how far Taiwan's missiles could reach, something that the government has always kept well under wraps. Taiwan offered an unusually stark assessment of China's abilities in its annual report on China's military, saying that they could paralyze Taiwan's defenses and are able to fully monitor its deployments. It goes on finally to report that asked what China would attack first in the event of a war, he answered that it would be Taiwan's command and communications abilities. On this, he said the Chinese communist abilities have rapidly increased, East, they can disrupt our command, control, communication, and intelligence systems. For example, with fixed radar stations certainly being attacked first. So we must be mobile, stealthy, and able to change positions. So this situation right here is not a matter of if China is going to try and invade, but when they invade. China has been warning over and over, and I've been bringing you those reports, but they have been warning that eventually they will reunify Taiwan and China. So I have no doubt that Taiwan is preparing for that day. In the meantime, I would like to move on and talk about Israel and what happened earlier this week. It is being reported. Israeli Prime Minister Bennett stated on Monday that Iran had crossed all red lines and vowed that Israel would not allow Iran to acquire a nuclear weapon. In his first speech to the United Nations General Assembly, Bennett said that Iran sought to dominate the Middle East under a nuclear umbrella and urged a more concerted international effort to halt Iran's nuclear activities. But he also hinted at the potential for Israel to act on its own against Iran, something that it has repeatedly threatened. Bennett said that Iran's nuclear program has hit a watershed moment, and so is our tolerance. Words do not stop centrifuges from spinning. Israel will not allow Iran to acquire a nuclear weapon. It goes on further to report that the UN ambassador for Iran, which has denied seeking a nuclear bomb, rejected Bennett's speech as full of lies. It goes on even further to report that Bennett has just been as adamant as Netanyahu was in pledging to do whatever is necessary to prevent Iran, which Israel views as a serious threat, from building a nuclear weapon. He stated that Iran's nuclear weapons program is at a critical point. All red lines have been crossed. He called for international action.
Yeah, Iran, they ready. All right, they like almost all the way ready. And them so-called people over there, all right, in the land of Israel, they over there shaking in their boots, man, because they understand full well. Soon as them people go active, all that threatening and shooting at Iranian people, all that kicking them people out and all that, that's gonna cease. That's gonna cease. All right. So look, this is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 23 and verse 7. It says, "Therefore, behold, the days come, saith Yahweh, that they shall no more say, Yahweh liveth, which brought up the children of Yasharallah out of the land of Egypt." So the event to come, nobody is going to be speaking about Egypt no more, man. Israel will not be identified with leaving Egypt with our forefathers, right, back in the time of Moses. It won't be spoken of no more. It says, "But Yahweh liveth, which brought up and which led the seed of the house of Israel out of the north country," right? "And from all countries whither I had driven them, and they shall dwell in their own land." All right. So how the Most High saves his elect out of the daughter of Babylon, right? The north country, and from all these other countries where we scattered, right? And we finally get into our own land. It's gonna be a spectacular thing, and it's gonna be a awesome event to behold, man. And the world is gonna behold it, man. Every knee shall bow, right? Every tongue shall confess. And how the Most High is gonna do it, right? First and foremost, it's gonna be right before these nations let loose these things that we seeing on the screen right now. Right before they let them things loose and them things touch down, them chariots gonna be beaming Yahweh Ratazah, me. And if you're watching this and you can hear this, you out of this place. And we're gonna see this place burning, man. Right? We're gonna be seeing them missiles, them ICBM missiles, shooting across the earth like arrows. And it ain't going to be one, it ain't going to be two. It's going to be several. Right? Several. Right? And no one will be talking about Egypt no more. They're going to be talking about the daughter of Babylon, how it got bammed up for doing the Most High's people, how they've been doing it. Right? Let's go to the book of Zechariah, chapter 14 and verse 12. Says, and this shall be the plague wherewith Yahweh will smite all the people that are fought against Jerusalem. Right? Their flesh shall consume away while they stand upon their feet, and their eyes shall consume away in their holes, and their tongue shall consume away in their mouth. Right? That's them flames touching you and melting you where you stand and turning your bones into ash, man. Like it's spoken of in 2 Ezra 13, man. All right? All of this is getting ready to happen. On top of Jacob's trouble, on top of the mark, on top of famine of the word, on top of actual famine, all of these things are about to fully manifest themselves. Right? They are already happening. It's just not as bad. But the Most High said, once again, I say it all the time, the plagues will come like a woman in travail, like a woman in birth pains. Right? Harder and harder and closer. So, let me see. One more script, man. The book of Psalms, chapter 27 and verse 5. It says, for in the time of trouble, he shall hide me in his pavilion. In the secret of his tabernacle shall he hide me. He shall set me upon a rock. Right? Matter of fact, let me bring out Psalm 27 and 1. It says, Yahweh is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? Yahweh is the strength of my life. Whom shall I be afraid? Yahweh is my salvation, man. So as long as that's your mindset, so if that's your mindset, then your actions reflect that mindset. Your day-to-day reflects that mindset. Right? And I ain't saying you walk around here floating on clouds because you holier than thou. Right? It's just that the things the world do, you don't do. The things the world like, you don't like. And a lot of times the Most High bless a spirit with that just inherently. Like you just got that in you. Right? And you know you get tainted with the world. But when you hear the Most High's word, you come back to that. Right? And the Most High said, man, if you just fear him, he'll hide you when that time comes. So you won't face that trouble like the wicked. And the wicked, they gonna face that fire, man. Right? So we don't want that. Right? So Most High willing, these precepts in this video are edifying. Call Haloim Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Harakah Kwadash, and Shalom Yashalom.